Cradle, Dogs of Fount, Chapter 35, Part 3. She crept due east and made it to another corner and looked up and around again. She grinned inside her helmet when she saw the red antenna blinking with a white and red light 300 yards away, further into the city. The smile faded when she knew her window was about all that time would align with. She was one of these small city blocks away from a main road, and she decided to risk the chance to go to that corner 10 yards to her left to get a better look around. She stuck close to the sides of the building and made it to the corner, noticing the silence. At the corner, she peered back west, and her fears were confirmed about the camera surveillance system. It was run by AI and not only people. There was a team of what looked like well-trained operators, guns held with confidence, looking from side to side and heading her way. For some reason, they didn't know exactly where she was, and she knew that would be foregone pretty soon too. She readied her legs and sprung up to the roof of a two-story building she was against. She decided to take the rooftops all the way to the antenna if the buildings were low enough and risk being spotted by the AI cameras rather than being spotted by the security force making their way toward her. She jumped from roof to roof, nearly missing the ledges of the next buildings a few times, but she refused to slow down until she made it to the antenna. As she landed on the roof of the second last building before the antenna, she felt the mech legs beginning to overheat. She hoped they'd cool off sufficiently once she hooked up the broadcast node. At the last building, she walked on the black leak-protected roof with an assortment of plants and herbs in pots lined up against the lip of the roof. The antenna reached high enough to hide its point at the apex. She looked back down the road the best she could and saw a couple of operators still going down toward this part of the city. She had minutes at best. Even now, her legs were beginning to cool off a bit. She jumped down to the street with the building blocking the view west. The south foot of the antenna was behind cover, so she hopped the flimsy chain link fence and tried to find a spot where the node would be well hidden. Just by luck, she saw a power terminal on the premises of this antenna and came up with an idea. She jogged against the concrete to the box and took out one of the mech leg batteries and undid a part of its bottom black jacket, and then opened the terminal and found the conductor. She set off a surge that blacked out everything for blocks around the antenna, and she already moved back to the antenna and began placing the node. It would attach to the network through software over radio waves. She just had to activate the power source, which took about 30 seconds that she'd have to squeeze to the last drop. She waited while the light on the node blinked red several times. The lights came back on in that part of the city, and just 2 seconds after, the light became a steady red-green on the node. It was live. She took off, easily hopping the fence, and then ninja stepped on the wall of the building and made it to the roof. As she planted to hop off the curved roof to the next, a volley of rounds exploded the bricks around her feet. She rolled back, curled upon herself. She'd been spotted. She spread out of her ball and jumped off the 3-story roof on the south end and landed on the street. She took out her SMG and readied it, and without thinking too long about it, took out one of two soldiers advancing 40 meters to the west. He didn't have chest armor, and he fell immediately. The one on the right had a helmet and jacket armor. Hawk cut back into cover around the corner between them, and Frog leapt to a window ledge on the second floor of this flat and pulled herself into another jump, making the roof. She felt a round sizzle past her and figured they'd already set up a sniper, but her plan was the same. She jumped off the roof and landed behind the armored soldier quietly and stuck her katana through the back of his neck, and he dropped. Looking back west, it seemed the road was clear all the way back toward the waterfall. A plus was that the lights covering the road had intervals of darkness that she timed to speed up her sprint. She took off, and immediately there was a welcome from the soldiers on her right flank, a block away, throwing rounds her way. But she was running at about 45 miles per hour, and they all reacted too late. She looked in the upper right-hand corner of her HUD and saw that in blue lights she had about 55% of battery charge left in her legs. She had to slow down considerably to make it to the hallway back to the cargo bay. To her guess, there were soldiers waiting in the hallway for her, but before they could get a bead, she jumped through the drop tile roof of the hallway and monkey barred across to the end of the hallway in darkness on skeletal beams in the structure in the mountain rock. She knew she was facing the opening of the bay in this complete blackness, but there was a concrete wall in the way. She was going to make a lot of noise and compromise her position, but this was the only possible way to escape with her life. She charged her legs again and swung back on the beam to gain momentum. She swung forward again and clobbered the concrete wall, cracking halfway through, and then with the force of tons swung into a massive kick and punched a hole through the wall, big enough to allow her through. She wormed through the hole with her SMG that was on her back scraping against the concrete, dropping bits on her legs. She came out in the sunlight and found herself on the catwalk. She saw two soldiers below her readying to fire, but the bay was wide open and she assumed there were no doors to it as a second thought. All that was needed to escape was to dash into the forest. She lunged off the catwalk and took off at 60 miles per hour and then was walloped in the back of the helmet by a heavy round. She went careening and rolling in the road that was leading to the bay. Her HUD was completely black, blinding her, but she made the decision to fight and rolled back to her feet and continued at 65 miles per hour to where she hoped was the forest. Running into a tree at this speed would pulverize her. As she ran, she unlatched her golden helmet and threw it to the ground, and the light flooded her vision like a holy sign. And to her relief, she had time to dodge a wide red tree trunk and then kicked up dirt and leaves as she safely eloped away from the cargo bay in the side of the mountain and into the wild forest.